Hey guys, today I was going to show you how to do an oil change on a 1997 Dodge Dakota SLT 5.2 V8. I know some people think everything needs to be specific to whatever they're doing, so you know what I'm saying, they gotta watch whatever it is or blah blah blah. Has to be specific. So anyways, I'll go ahead and do this video since it's really easy to do, and I actually kind of promote people to do their own oil changes, not because usually you get to, you use your own oil, it's usually cheaper and you use better stuff, which means it's better for your car. And then the other thing is, at least around here, we actually had a few of those like Jiffy Lube places and stuff like that do some scams. And I always hate it when I see them, when they don't use the quarts or something like this, and they use the pump. That always bothers me. So, anyways, I won't get into that discussion, but anyways, I'll show you what you need. Obviously, you need motor oil. I'm not going to get into the motor oil discussion, but you will need 10W30 for this. Obviously, this is a 1997, so high mileage would be great. This isn't the full synthetic. This is just Max Life, which I think is like a synthetic blend. This is just one of those things I use on my trucks sometimes. This truck has actually been sitting for a while, and I've only been driving it every once in a while. But recently, I'm going to be driving it more. So it had some of this left over in there, but it kind of got bad, so I changed it just with some crappy oil, and now I'm going to put this back in one more time. But the only oil I put in here is either this, when I'm not driving it a lot, or when I'm kind of in an intermittent stage like I am now, Royal Purple or AMS oil. I haven't actually tried AMS oil in here, or Ames oil, but heard nothing but good things, and have seen some good stuff from them, and I definitely like the way they conduct themselves in their own videos. So, but anyways, for today I'll use this stuff. This stuff is great from what I've seen so far. It even offers an engine guarantee. I'm not sure what the stipulations are with that, but I mean that sounds like a pretty cool deal to me, that they would even offer something even remotely close to a warranty just for your oil. And I think Valvoline is actually probably one of the most underrated brands actually out there, in my opinion. Not saying they're the best, I just think they're, underrated for what they are. So this is good oil, and it's actually very cheap. So I think it was like $17 for 5. This is over 5 quarts. Then you need yourself an oil filter. I'm trying this one out for the first time. These came out recently. It says it holds more, and it says it has a 99.9% efficiency of removing stuff. So, I don't know. Usually I've used the Fram a couple times. I'm not very impressed with the Frams. Those are kind of a joke. The K&N is a little bit better. Still not that impressed. I was using the Purelator Pure 1s on some of my other cars. For a while, and I think I used it 1 or 2 times on this truck, and I was actually very happy with the Purelator Pure 1. It's a very good price too. This is probably at least double what the Purelator Pure 1 costs, but supposedly it even has a chart on here. It actually, I think this is supposed to be the Purelator Pure 1, actually traps more and is supposed to be better. So I'm interested. I'm going to try it out, and then when I'm done, I'll probably open it up and see what it's got in there. And I'm also interested in the Royal Purple one. I haven't tried that one yet. I don't even think there's a store around here yet that has them. Anyways, next thing you are going to need is an oil catcher. Now, you can use whatever you want, but you really should just get one specific to oil. Now, I actually have 2 down here. This black one is actually brand new. For a long time, I've been using this old yellow one right here. It holds 5, maybe 6 quarts at the very most. And you gotta remember, this is a 5-quart truck, so that thing gets completely full. And the other thing is it leaks. It is so bad. This thing is a total piece of crap. I hate that thing, so I replaced it. Don't ever buy those things. They leak, and it's you know, you don't have a lot of room to work with. It's easy to spill it. Whereas you can see with this black one, it's like the area that you have to work with is literally double, maybe even triple. And it holds a hell of a lot more oil, and it's a lot less prone to leak. The actual cap to spill it out here is actually at the top rather than the bottom / middle like on this one. So you'll need one of those. They're still not very expensive, and as you can also see laying on the ground, you will need, you might need, depending, a tool to get the oil filter off. Sometimes you can get it off by hand. Usually if you've been going to a place like Jiffy Lube or one of those quick stop places, they usually put it on there tight as hell. I don't know why, because most people keep going back there, and then they're the ones that have to get it off. But a lot of people use something like this. It basically gets on the oil filter. It's like a strap wrench basically, and then it tightens up, and you... my favorite is the ones that go on the ratchet. Unfortunately, I don't actually have one for my truck here, truck's oil filter, but I've been able to get it off by hand most of the time. But these are my personal favorite. These require less room. You just attach them to your ratchet. And I mean, it goes right on. But what you do need to do is you need to either bring an oil, or you need to check to make sure this will fit your oil filter. Even if it's for the same car, a lot of times there can be a different number of flutes on the oil filter, which is the little ridges, which is what this fits into. It fits on it like that. And it can change even if it's for the same vehicle. So even from the same brand, if you're just getting a different quality one, that can change, alright? But like I said, you might be able to hand do it. In fact, I usually suggest, before you even start your oil change, what I usually do is make sure I can get this off by hand first. What I'll do is I'll loosen it just a little bit, tighten it back up just a tad bit, and then I'll drain the oil from it if you don't know the process already. So I usually just do that to make sure I can get the oil filter off with no problems, because I have had times where I've actually had to bring it to a shop because I could not get it off with any tool. I don't know what they did. It wasn't actually on this truck. It was on a different vehicle. But and also something I suggest, but you do not need, magnets. Alright, I haven't put one on this truck yet, and I feel like an idiot for not doing it yet, is a magnetic, well, first off, I've got, these are just plain magnets. You can just use these too, but this is the magnetic oil drain pin. And basically what it does is, if you have metal shavings coming off from anything in your engine, you know, any crud that gets in there, or any shavings that come from your engine, instead of staying, you know, within the moving parts and scratching it up, it will be attracted to here and stick to here. It's that tip there is a magnet, and it'll keep it at the bottom of the oil pan where it can't harm the rest of your moving parts. So it's very good. And then I'm just going to place a couple of these magnets. I got a Radio Shack for a couple bucks on the bottom there. They also make this thing called the filter mag, and it actually goes around your oil filter, and it's stacked with magnets, although I do not have one of those just yet. So it'll catch it in your oil filter too. So I might even do that with some of these magnets, is try to stick them to my oil filter. But this is not needed. I do suggest this if you haven't done it already. So anyways, also something you will need to consider is if you need to raise your vehicle or not. Most people have been using jacks. Jacks do tend to be very handy. You can use them for more than one thing. Personally, for oil change, I like to use these Rhino ramps. This is actually the first time I've used it on this truck. I've usually been able to just get under it. But I'm just kind of doing a little more than a regular oil change today. And these are actually made for cars, although it does say they will hold my truck's weight. These are the smallest ones they made, or the lightest ones they made. I think it says it's good for 4,000 pounds per pair, which is like an 8,000 pound vehicle basically. And my vehicle's like 5,000 pounds, but that's still, I I still don't like that. Even though half of the weight's not going to be held up by this, I still don't like that, and I'm actually very nervous about doing it. So I suggest, when you look at it, actually, they usually advertise the total weight, and that's basically you having 4 of them, essentially, or the total weight, you know, vehicle weight it can hold up. So I would actually make sure you look at the actual Rhino ramps, because that's where you have to look, and it'll give you like per Rhino ramp number. It'll give you the GWT or GVT number, which is basically all 4s, and then it'll give you per pair. Look at the per pair number, and then I usually like to have that match or be greater than the weight of my vehicle overall. So this is the first time that is not happening, but like I said, a lot of people use jacks, and this truck I usually don't even have to use them on. So anyways, oh, and you'll also need something to take off, obviously, the oil plug off with, and I usually just bring my ratchet set down there. I forget what the exact key is. I think it's a 5/8. Also, something else I forgot to mention, usually when I do my oil changes, I like to clean off my air filter. I'm using just like a really crappy ram air intake, just to replace the stock box, and I clean out my air filters. I check my tranny fluid. I check my coolant. Check your power steering fluid. Check your brake fluid. Do everything that they would pretty much do at a regular oil change, and check your tire pressure too. So that's I usually either do that first or last, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do that first. I think that's self-explanatory, and that's going to vary because you're not going to have this type of air intake system, and you don't really want it. It's not that great. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we will continue. Okay, so at this point, I've either done all my little services, or I'm going to do them, you know, like I was saying, like, you know, checking your fluids and whatnot, just like you would do at a place. I also made sure I could get my oil filter off with the tools I have, and I was actually able to start taking it off by hand. You know, once you get it moving a little bit, that you'll know you'll be able to take it off, because it only gets easier. So I was also right about the socket wrench, or the ratchet. You can use any other kind of wrench. It is indeed a 5/8, and you just go ahead and take that off. I'll actually show you, and you just use your oil pan over here to catch the oil. And that's going to be the actual first step in doing this. Also, newspaper might help you. It might be nice to have newspaper around, especially if you don't have an oil catcher like that. I know with that other old oil catcher that I showed you at the beginning, I was always using tons of newspaper, and it was still made a mess. So I would suggest using that. Also, I'll go ahead and check this for you too if you're interested. I got this at like Discount Auto Parts or whatever. My new one is actually not a 5/8. Let's see what it is. And it also comes with a new seal here. This actually feels like hard rubber. I don't even know if I should use this. Okay, well, if you get this magnetic oil plug or drain cap or whatever, as a replacement on your 97 or 5.2 liter Dakota, just know that the for this cap, it is a 3/4 ratchet. Alright, not a 5/8. So I'll need the 3/4 to get this back on, you know, after I'm done draining the oil and putting this new one on. And also, I'll show you placing the magnets on there. Okay, so here we are traveling under the car here. I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. I do not like being under here, not being sure of these ramps. So anyways, you might not even need ramps, like I said. Here is what you need to take off right here. This is your oil plug, okay? And your oil is going to come spilling out. You want to try to take this off as slowly as possible. Your oil is going to flow like a little bit off to which direction it's pointed in. As you can see, it's pointed towards the back. So it's, you kind of gotta, you might have to do some moving around. You might not get it right the first time. Sometimes this is something that takes a little experience, but you just go ahead and you take your ratchet and you go ahead and loosen it up. And I only have 2 hands, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the camera and you can figure the rest out. Basically, I'm just going to make sure the oil gets into this pan. Here you can see I have the cap off and you can see the oil flowing into the pan. So you're basically, it's actually going to take a little while to do this, and you really want to make sure you get all of the old oil out. I don't necessarily believe in using those flushing things. I know I've seen some flushing things where you put it in your crankcase and you warm up your car and then you do your oil change to help flush out all the oil. Unless you were using some extremely shitty oil that's going to interfere with the oil that you're using now, I would not bother with this. The best thing I would suggest doing is just waiting, basically. Just letting it do its thing. Just let it drain. It'll take a while, but, well, I mean, really, you can do a fast oil change, and it'll probably only take like 5 minutes. But, you know, I usually make sure it all gets out, and, you know, that's probably the best thing you can do, in my opinion. So, I'm going to be waiting for that to happen, and then when the stream either gets, light enough or it's completely done, I'm going to go ahead and take off the old oil filter and put on the new one. So at this point, you should have your oil completely drained out of your oil pan. Now, here's the really last part that requires any skill at all, and it's still easy, but I will admit this is the hardest part of the oil change, but it's still extremely easy. Oil changes are, by nature, extremely easy. But I have my wheel well removed here, and I don't know if you can see it. The last thing you gotta do is change your oil filter. Now, I'll point to it right here. You can see the white label right here where I'm pointing. It's right here on the Dakota. It's right on the engine block. So, we'll go under and I'll show you. Now remember, I loosened it up a little bit earlier, and actually I just took it off and emptied it because I cannot hold this and do it at the same time. This is actually can get very messy. And another reason why I suggest these big oil pans. So anyways, you go ahead and get under your car. And it's actually, see, here, there's your oil nut. See, there's the new one right there. That's the magnetic one. And right across from it over here is your oil filter. You can see it shining right here. And see, I can grab it by hand and see, turn it. And that's where it's at. And basically what'll happen is, as you're unscrewing it, you'll get to a point where a stream of oil starts coming out. As soon as that happens, what you're going to want to do is, if your oil pan is not already in the perfect position, you just want to let go, because this is not going to fall off at that point. You're going to want to let go and just move your oil pan to do that. And usually what I do is I go ahead and I let that oil drain, or I might unscrew it a couple more times and then let it drain. And then after it's draining, you know, you just take it off. It will follow a straight path, believe it or not. And once it's done, it's done. But your oil filter will still be full of oil. So make sure you do not tip it upside down until you have it on the oil pan. In fact, there's probably still oil in this one. And see, I got my oil pan right here, and just go. See, you saw that? Still had oil. It still had oil in it. So you just tip it, and you go ahead and leave it on your oil pan. And you're done with your oil pan. You can go ahead and put that away for now. And next thing we will be doing is installing the new oil filter. At this point, pretty much all the old oil should be removed from your car. And also, by the way, I even after I took the filter off, I left the oil pan under the car for a minute, because sometimes there is a little bit of extra that drips out of the socket that the oil filter goes into. So leave it under there for a minute. It doesn't take long. You know, after you unscrew it, you'll know. Anyways, this is where a little bit of prep work goes a long way. First off, if you have something like this, most oil filters are like this, try not to get oil on it, okay? It might sound a little hard, but no, seriously, it'll help you get it off in the future. Next, there's two things you want to do. You want to put a little bit of oil in here, and you want to oil up this seal right here. Some people don't do that, but not only is it good for your car, it makes it easier probably on your oil pump and more accurate oil pressures, I think, as a result. I'm not sure. But anyways, what I do know is that it makes it a lot easier to take it off when it's time to change your oil. The first time I changed my oil, I didn't even put it on that tight, but I did not oil this up or put oil in there, and it was a bitch to take off. So you want to make sure you go ahead and put a little oil, and I'll do that for you. So I'm going to shake our oil up. I never buy these 5 quarts. This is like the first time I've ever bought one of these big old 5 quarts. It was like a big pain in the butt. No wonder it's cheaper. And what you'll go ahead and do is just pour it in, you know, just not a lot, just a little bit. Because then it's going to make it really hard to, you know, actually get it back on without making a mess. Just a little bit. You want to try to get it in that center hole where it screws in with the screws. Right in that center hole, okay? Not a lot, just a little bit, okay? It's not a big deal if you get it everywhere else. Not a big deal, okay? And what you'll also do is, if you can see here, I'm trying to get my finger in the new thing of oil, and I just got my finger covered in new oil. And you take your finger and you just rub it all around the seal. You might even have to dip your finger a couple times. In fact, I'm going to do it again. Make sure you get this really good. This is what's going to make it easy to get off. And now we go under the car to put it back on. It should be pretty much self-explanatory to you at this point. At this point, we are now here back under the car again. And we're going to reinstall the oil filter. Now remember, you have a little bit of oil in there, so be very careful. So, as you can see, I'm putting it face up just like it would be. And I'm going to put it right back in where I took the last one off. In fact, you can see I missed a little too much, and I actually have a little bit of dripping oil, and that's not good. And I was going to say, it might be helpful, especially if you're new to this, to put your oil pan down even when you put the new one on. I don't really do that anymore because I'm lazy and it's just easier to get it out of the way, but as you can see, even I make mistakes, and I just accidentally spilled a little bit. When I was pouring some in there, I poured a little too much around the edges. So anyways, this is getting hard to put back in with one hand, so let me go ahead and finish screwing it in. All you gotta do is screw it in. You only want to really hand tight it. Don't bolt it in there, okay? Just hand tighten. But get a good seal, not too loose, but definitely not too tight. You'll never get it off. So now we're at the fun part. Now at this point, you've drained your oil and you've changed your oil filter. Next thing you want to do is go ahead and take off your crankcase cap or your oil cap and add oil. That's all there is. Now, you might have to do some pre-planning on this. Like if, for instance, if you are going to use something like Marvel Mystery Oil or even Lucas or something, because they say actually replace 20% of your oil with this. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to use this right now because I got this big old 5 quart thing. I've never had one of these before, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't really see a good way to measure the oil in there, so it's not a big deal if you can't. And usually I find that it's going to actually take more oil than it says. I'm not saying you should put more than the recommended 5 quarts. Actually, I think it might be 5.5 quarts. And in fact, you know what? This thing is a pain in the ass to pour out of. This is the last time I buy one of these 5 quart things. The only reason I got it is because it was cheaper. I even have a funnel in here. And you'll definitely need a funnel if you're using something like this. But I'm having trouble getting my funnel to stay in. I'm having trouble maneuvering this oil. There we go. I made it look. But anyways, so this is supposed to be the fun part. In fact, it's being a little more of a pain in the ass than I thought it would. But yeah, so you basically just pour your oil in. And like I said, if you are using any kind of additives, make sure you plan ahead. Some of them, require you to change or change out a certain amount of your oil for the additive. So, and then after that, you pretty much just put your oil cap back on and you're done. And that's it. Thanks for watching.